welcome to another, I was going to say another version. I don't know why I thought of that, but welcome to Sac&Taff. My name's Rosalind Roberts, and I'm going to share a little bit, because the last one I shared about a little bit of how I or why I decided to self-publish. What I didn't share about is, and I'm sure I've shared about it before, I've got to know down what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, but it's always nice to reflect so that if somebody new has joined, you've got a little bit more of an idea of me. My background's sales and marketing. So I've always done sales and marketing. Whenever I was looking for work, I always used to drift to sales and marketing. I love the communication. I love the fact that you're going to be talking to different people from different backgrounds. I like that challenge. I like that challenge of just talking to different people who have different mindsets. Do you know what I mean? That come from different backgrounds. I like the challenge, and I like the fact that if you work hard, you can do well. If I believe in the product, I like that. So I've always been attracted to sales jobs. So I've always done sales, and I love talking to people. I love people. I love talking to different people as well from different backgrounds. It's amazing what you can learn. If you talk to a lot of different people, it's amazing what you can learn just by doing that, So that's my background. So that's why I knew that I could sell and market my books. I knew I could do it in a very basic way, because I know that people can do it in a much better way than I'm doing it. But all the books that I've sold, majority I've met each individual, and I've sold a lot, a few thousand copies of the books. But I'm trying to drift now to start doing sales in a more professional way. I'm going to get there. I'm getting there. I'm walking in that direction now. So what's happened now is I've shared about a customer in the last one, how I remember getting a taxi to where she lived, which is like, that was big for me, It's like, I've never forgotten it. It's always nice to make a mark in your life, isn't it? When you've achieved something, it's like, right, I'm going to get a taxi. Normally it'd be a bus and walking down. You know what I mean? So I remember getting a taxi to her home and giving her a book, one of my books, that she probably must have paid for it in advance. I can't quite remember, but then I shared about how she came to the door and she made me feel embarrassed, ashamed of what I'd written. And she started digging at my personal life, which she knew nothing about. And I haven't forgotten that. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing a podcast as regards to the book Taffy, how I'm determined to bring the book back out again, and I'm determined to talk about it. There's a reason behind it, but she basically picked up on the wrong details. She didn't read it properly or what have you. So I'm going to talk about the book. I'm not going to have people think that they can come up and say anything to me and not have nothing to back it. So, and I think a majority of people will look at it from a positive point of view. So that was one particular customer, but I met another customer actually who doesn't live too far from where I am, and I've never forgotten him. There's certain people that I just remember, and which is really encouraging. And he was really impressed with the fact that I was selling the first chapter of my book, because that's what I was doing in the very beginning. I don't know if I've covered that, where I was selling the first chapter of my book, and I think it was for £1.50. And then I was sort of saying, if you like what you read, would you like to buy the actual book? But I think, the £1.50 was just helping me get there as well, as regards to also, anyway, I don't want to keep on reflecting back. So I met this particular customer. He was really impressed with what I was doing. And he said to me, would you mind if I got in contact with the local paper? No, not the local paper. He said, would you mind if I got in contact with the papers? And I said, I don't mind. And I thought nothing of it. And then 2 weeks later, I had the National Guardian on the phone asking me if they wouldn't mind if they put my contact number under the, is it called an editorial? And I'm like, okay. And then they told me the day it was going to come out in The Guardian. And on that day, I remember it was a Thursday. The first thing I did was buy the paper. I think it was anyway. I can't remember that, but I know I bought the paper. And I was looking through it. I probably did in the morning. I was looking through it and I couldn't find it. And I remember being out of the home from about 9:30, 10 a.m. and going to work. And I came home about 4 o'clock, 4:30. And as soon as I put my foot in the door, not even both feet, one foot through the door, the phone didn't stop ringing. And then so someone called me and said that, I remember from Salisbury, they called me and said that I've seen your editorial, I think it's an editorial, what have you, in the papers. And I was wondering if I could get a copy of a book or something. It was some sort of a conversation like that. And I asked him, whereabouts is it? And he had to tell me. It was sort of like, they've got sort of like an art section there or something like that. That's what they had then anyway. And something like that. And I saw it and it was this tiny, weeny box with a little bit of information about me and what I've done and my number. And from that tiny, weeny box, that's how powerful these things are. I had quite a lot of people pick up on it. Oh, yeah. And I mean, like journalists and, yeah. And then someone else called me. Someone else called me from, I think it was from 5 Live. I can't remember, but it was from another major radio station. And they said that we're going to call you tomorrow and we'd like to talk to you on our radio show. And they told me the time. And they said, can you make sure that your children are in another room so we don't have background noise and stuff like that? And they called me and I was on radio. And then I had, I remember being, I think it was called Black Londoners. I was on that show. And the good thing about that was someone saw me the next day or a few days later saying, I heard you on Black Londoners, or I heard you on the radio show, And then I had a phone call from the Evening Standard. And then they basically spent about an hour on the phone talking to me about my background and so on and so forth. And then someone came over. I'm sure a journalist came over and took some photographs. And I remember I'm sure we went to a neighbour's house and we were sitting down talking and we had some photographs taken. I think something like that happened, right? And then I was going to be interviewed on for the news. And they told me the day and time they were going to come over, and then something more important happened and they couldn't cover it. And you know what? I thought, it's not my time yet. It's not my time yet. And then that was it. But the thing is, what I experienced and what I began to realize, that if you're going to go into promoting your work in a more professional way, things can just go from here to all the way up here very, very fast. Very, very fast. And I thought, you know what, I'm not ready for that right now. I'm not ready for it. It was nice that I had that experience, but I'm not ready for me to take it further. And this happened years ago. And I haven't been ready for it. I've always been saying, oh, I'm not ready for it yet. I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready for it yet. And that's all I've been saying, And then I met somebody a few years later. She was a radio presenter for a local radio station. And she was impressed with what I was doing and said, would I be able to interview you on my radio show? And I said, that sounds really good. And she told me the process, that I'd have to come to the studio in the morning and then we have to do this in the afternoon. I'm like, I'm going to be there practically the whole day. And then I thought about it and I just thought, I can't afford to take a whole day off work. And then if I really wanted to, I know I could have, but my mindset was I can't afford to. I'm just used to working. And then also, at the time, I was selling the book in advance. And I'm sure I've spoken about this in one of my other podcasts. I was selling the book in advance because I was finding it difficult to make orders. And it just felt like um, oh, sorry, excuse me. I just felt a little bit inadequate. I didn't feel like I wanted to talk about how I was doing it because I was finding it, difficult and making orders at the time and so on and so forth. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to leave it. So I didn't get in contact with her. Then what's happened now is a few years later, I managed to make a large order of over 7,000 copies of the book. This was off Taffy Howe, by the way. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? Let me get in contact with this radio presenter and let her know, I'm now ready to be interviewed. And I got in contact, but it was either I couldn't get through to her or I left a message and no one responded or something like that. And I just thought, just leave it. I'll just leave it. Yeah, so these are some of the positive things. And I've met customers, I've met journalists, I've met customers that have turned out to be really good friends. I have met other authors and writers that have really encouraged me and inspired me, given me advice, and so there's a lot of people that have really sort of encouraged me. And as regards to the first book, well, which is what I'm basically talking about, Sacrifice of a Lifetime, I've had people that have looked at the back of the book, looked at the back of the cover, and just cried and said, "Oh my goodness, I can relate to it." And they don't even know what the book is about. It's just what I've written at the back of the book. So it is really encouraging, definitely so. But the good news is, after all those years of sort of saying no, I'm not ready, and was very hesitant, the good news is now I am ready. So now this is the time to bring the book back out. This is the time to talk about the book. This is the time to confront people who want to, say something negative about the book or about the life that I live. This is the time for me to do it. It's the time. It's the time, because I know that nobody's perfect, right? And if you were perfect, why are you pointing the finger? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Nobody's perfect, because while you're pointing the finger, there's 4 fingers pointing back, or is there 3 fingers and a thumb? But then again, the thumb's not really pointing back, but you know what I'm saying. The thumb's more or less going forward. I know that. Do you know what I mean? And I've got to know myself and understand myself. And I've still got that conviction that I need to share. So it was good that I had that time of selling and promoting and the feedback that I got. It was good. Because can you imagine if all the feedback was great and then a few years later I just decided to publish it and in a much bigger way, and then I start getting the negative feedbacks and I don't know how to deal with it. And I'm going to have to deal with it because I put myself in the limelight. I'd rather have promoted it, sold a few. I sold over 12,500 copies over a span. It was only, how many? It wasn't all that long. I think it was about over a couple of years or something like that. I have to think about it. Because with that book, I then went on to my second book, which is Taffy Howe. And the reason why I've spent so much time promoting Taffy Howe is because the book is smaller. I don't have them with me at home. The book is smaller. You've probably seen, I've shown it in some of the other videos. The book is smaller, easier to carry around. And it's like a short, to me, it's like a cheap version of PR. I'm giving a small amount to people not a small amount, but I'm giving a part of my literature for people to read and decide whether they want to read more of my things. And sometimes I meet people that don't have time to read, but when they see the size of the book, they're like, "Oh, this could easily fit in my handbag. I can carry it when I'm traveling." Do you see what I mean? It has its benefits. I do want to write a second part because a lot of people for years asked me, a few people, I'm not going to say a lot of people, a few people asked me, have I written another book? They wanted to know more about Taffy Howe because you write, they wanted a part 2. I've written part 2, I've got to type it up, but there's certain things I'm going to change in there. I'm going to change it. So even if I brought that part 2 out, it wouldn't have been the right time. That's why sometimes it's good to write something and leave it for a bit. Leave it, not for too long. Don't leave it for too long, but just write it. If you're not sure about it, then there must be a reason why you're not continuing to, type it up or get it published a lot for a publisher, and then you might in a 6 months later or a year sort of think, no, I want to change that part. I understand what I was trying to say now. Then I couldn't explain myself properly, but now I understand. It's that sort of thing. Yeah, so I'm gonna change it and bring, because it's gonna be. It will look better if I'm promoting a book that's a bit thicker than the book that I'm promoting, because it's quite a small book, but a lot of work's gone into it. A lot of editing and proofreading and so on and so forth has gone into it. Yeah, so it's all good. So there you go. And then lastly, but I think that should be it for now, and then I'll share next time about something that happened with a particular customer. I'm going to write it down. I'll share that next time. Yeah, and then let you know about that. But like I say, I hope you are enjoying my podcasts. I am going to share more about what a sacrifice of a lifetime is about, and go more into detail about things. And I'm sure a lot of people watching will be able to relate. Yeah, so if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm on Rosalind, ROSALIND 1325 on Facebook, Rosalind Roberts. I'm also on Threads, X, and any more? Oh yeah, if you want to watch this podcast, which you should be, I'm on my YouTube, Welcome Rosalind Roberts, or Studio YouTube, Sac&Taff. But I look forward to talking to you next time. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.